Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
We are back and blonder than ever. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I am Agent Aaron Peterson. And man, I have missed that funky groove that we got going in this show. I've also been a little bitter because our beloved Liz and Red had their season 3 premiere bumped for that Super Friends show. I'm really not happy about it.
I hate Super Friends.
Super Friends. You ain't my hero. Thanks for joining us this week as we discuss a bunch of stuff, but most importantly, our season 3 preview and predictions. This episode was recorded on September 19th, 2015. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklisexposed.com.
Well, it has been a long off-season waiting for the return of Red and Friends, and NBC went ahead and made it just a little bit longer. So we thought, why not let you all in on a bit of news as we wait this extra week thanks to the Super Friends show.
We'll give you a... right? I'm calling it Super Friends from now on, man. It's not Heroes Reborn. Super Friends. We will give you a brief reminder of where we left off at the end of Season 2, and then run down what we want to see from our characters in Season 3 before getting into spoiler-free nuggets released to the masses. We will not do spoilers on this podcast. If you have never listened before, we only stay current to where we are in the season.
Correct. And we will give you a brief synopsis of the first 3 issues of the Blacklist comic book, because there's most likely a lot of you out there that have not read it or purchased it. So we'll fill you in, because it does have a cool kind of Season 2 vibe to it, but it also gives very important information for Season 3.
I think everybody bought those. You don't agree? Guess not.
He's already starting with the jokes this early in the season, people.
Sorry. I have talked to so many Blacklist fans, and they just haven't, they didn't even know there was a comic book.
It wasn't advertised very well. I think that maybe, I would hope at least during the course of Season 3, some point during the show, like there's a commercial for it or something, promote their own crap, you know?
Right. Well, I think it's a very niche audience. For a comic book based on a mainstream television series, it's a very niche audience. So I'm sure it did well. It surprises me. I haven't seen more advertising on it, I guess.
Because I'm actually through the 3rd issue, and we'll talk about it. I'm actually enjoying the story now quite a bit.
Oh, is it? Because see, you and I talked about the first one a while back, and you can listen to that episode if you want to hear about it. I thought it was okay. It was just kind of a slow start. It picks up.
It does pick up quite a bit.
All right, we'll talk about more a little later on. But then, before we sign off this week, a special announcement for you, the diehards of Blacklist Nation. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end. We got a little bit of a surprise.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But first, for those that may be new to the show, this is the point where we kind of go over what we call our hard-hitting profiling question of the week. And we would love your responses on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Clamor, Tumblr. The list goes on and on. Our handle, as always, is the Blacklist GSM, and it is everywhere you socialize. That is the Blacklist GSM.
And just so you know, I did check it. We are literally everywhere. So nice job, Troy, because I saw this in the notes. I'm like, I'm just going to check everywhere. Yep, everywhere it is. There it is. Our profiling question for Season 3, okay? We wanted to get something that covers kind of the entire season. So here's our question. You ready?
Shoot.
Drum roll. Other than Liz and Red's mysterious association, take that out of the equation because you know they're not going to answer it. What is the one question you most want answered this season?
With that, who wants to have some fun as we discuss this week's episode case profile?
All right, Troy, tell us where Season 2 left off.
Well, it's funny because I just actually watched the last 2 episodes of Season 2 in our Blacklist rewatch. And for those of us in our Facebook group, I sincerely apologize because I was keeping up and actually posting on the Facebook group where I was, and then the 9-to-5 day job kind of got in the way. So I failed all of you, and I'm very, very sorry for not letting you know where I was.
That is not an excuse, my friend. That is
I know.
No excuse.
I'm so sorry. But
very disappointed.
I did finish the rewatch today as planned, which was great because I wanted to make sure I watched those last 2 episodes before we did the podcast this morning. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that we left off with Karakurt, this guy who came into town from Russia, and the whole concept that we were building up to was the fact that Liz is, in fact, Katerina Rostova's daughter, a.k.a. Masha Rostova, and they want to frame her as a potential KGB threat to the United States. And
what?
I know.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't see that coming.
Not at all. So they had this virus concocted by this guy named Andropov, who also fabricated the tumor that was in Harold's brain, the glioblastoma, so that he would help out Tom Connolly, who was the AG at the time. And things just kind of got crazy after that. So Liz gets infected with the virus by Andropov instead of Karakurt. She goes to this funeral service that occurred because earlier in the episode, Karakurt blows up a CIA installation, and it all spirals from there. We find out that Liz infects a senator who is the big spokesperson against Russia. Now he is sitting there in critical condition, and in the finale ends up dying. And they find out that everybody is clean, of course, for this virus except for Liz. So she's been framed, she's on the run, and now she's got to choose between the two men in her life. Do I go with Reddington or do I go with Tom? Of course, she decides to go with Tom, ends up probably getting pregnant. Just saying.
Whoa.
We're going to call it now.
Slow down. I don't agree with that, but you can continue your synopsis.
I still say because they had sex on the boats are rocking, don't come a knocking, something is going to happen because they made very clear back in season 1 that she wanted to adopt because she didn't want to have biological children. It didn't say that she couldn't have biological children. So because they had sex, I say she's going to get pregnant at some point during the series.
You know that they were married before, so they had sex at some point. So it's not like this is the first time.
But she could have been taking birth control.
Oh, now you're injecting your own theory. I really don't want that. I don't want a baby on the blacklist.
I don't want it either, but it ties into the story, I guess, when you think about it. The whole mother-daughter relationship, the father-daughter relationship, it's all about family at the end of the day. So I could see it potentially coming in. I don't want it as a fan, personally.
Yeah, I don't want it as a fan. Let's hold off a couple years. We got some time for the babies. And
we still don't know, like, what's the progression of the show, right? It could be, each episode is like a week apart in real time. So if it's a week apart, then we can actually decide if, pregnancy's 9 months out. We could be in season 5 before she ever actually shows, potentially.
Or we could just not have her pregnant and just let that go.
Just let it go.
You go for the bad theory. I don't want that theory. All your theories make me scared. How's that?
Hey, I'm just calling spade a spade. That's all I'm saying.
People have sex all the time and there's no babies, so it is quite possible.
You don't show romantic sex unless you're actually going to have children afterwards.
Is this like a TV law?
I think so. It's like it's like the you don't see the body, then they're not dead kind of thing.
Oh, I don't know about that. Here's a question I've got, because you talked about your rewatch, and if you're not in the Facebook group, you don't know what he's talking about. Troy just rewatched the entire series, right? From episode 1 till the end of season 2.
44 episodes and 44 something days.
How, for you as a diehard fan, because you're obviously a diehard fan, or we wouldn't be doing this podcast. So, as a diehard fan, how did the show hold up for the second viewing? Do you think the season 2 is the strongest now? Do you think season 1's the strongest? Where are you at in terms of the series as a whole at this point?
I could tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed season 1. Like, even watching the pilot again, which I've seen like 100 times. Every time you watch the pilot, it is just so riveting. I can't believe how much they crammed into that first episode, even before the first commercial break ever shows up. I really enjoyed all of the pieces and nuggets. I really, really enjoyed going through and trying to find the things that connected to other things. And it just must have been because it blew past me. But in The Judge, of all places, the whole like Kuwait thing and Harold being interrogated by the judge, the lady in the horse barn, the person that was with him was none other than one Tom Connolly. And I was like, holy crap, how did I miss that the first time around? So apparently Tom and Harold actually went back farther in their relationship as it relates to Red. And now, of course, we saw a coroner rolling out a body at the end of the season, but after Liz decides to shoot Tom Connolly, we have to assume at this point Tom Connolly is dead. Otherwise, the whole framing thing doesn't quite work.
Well, or there could be an out. I mean, keep in mind, we are theorizing. We do not know. We have not seen the premiere yet. We are just theorizing.
Right, at the present time, because again, even at the end of the second to last episode, Karakurt, the senator had not died. So they can't hold Liz accountable for anything until the murder actually happens and he passes away. And it's only when he passes away that then they find out also that she's the one who infected him because she was the only one that tested positive for the virus. So at the end of Karakurt, Liz is still in the clear. It's right at the start of the finale that she's now being set up and framed for the murder of the senator.
Yeah. It should be very, very interesting. I like the fact that they have her more on the lam now, but I'm okay with the fact if they kept Connolly alive, but it looked like they zipped him up in a body bag, right? Am I remembering that right?
They did, yes. A body bag, rolled him out on the gurney. So the assumption, of course, is you saw the body, therefore he's dead, but you didn't really see Connolly's body, you just saw a body bag being rolled out, so they could have stuffed it with anybody, who knows?
You are such a conspiracist.
I don't believe anything on television anymore, thanks to that lost television show.
Oh man, you are such a conspiracy theorist. It's insane, Troy, when you really think about it. Let's put it this way. For all accounts and purposes, it sure looks like Connolly's dead.
Yes.
She's on the run for his murder. She killed him point blank in front of people. She's done. As far as I don't see any way that they are out. We had a conversation not too long ago where we wondered, so what's going to happen here? Can she actually be cleared from the charges? I honestly don't know if she could be. I mean, even if Red worked some magic and, they did something, because the reporters are now full aware of what's going on. I guess there is some theory that maybe the public would buy into the fact that she was defending herself, but I mean, I don't know. There were witnesses.
Well, the only witness to the gunshot was Harold.
Yeah, but Harold is a witness and he saw it.
But Harold could say, in drop off or somebody, in drop off died, so it wouldn't be in drop off. But somebody ran in and shot her, dropped the gun, and left. And
I don't know, man. I mean, that one lie he told really tore him apart. You really think he's going to make another cover up, basically? That's
a good question. I mean, you're talking about Cooper's character and the fact that he said, I don't want you to turn into this criminal. I don't want you to become a different type of Liz. And I meant that conversation. And then here she literally became a different type of Liz. So will Harold actually stick out for her again? Because he seems to do that quite often. Or is he like, now you've crossed the line and I can't help you? It's a good point.
Yep. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm glad you enjoyed the rewatch, because I was really wondering when you watch like 44 episodes, especially if you're like barreling through it, so it almost becomes a chore. I do that with Game of Thrones every season before I would rewatch it, because of so much information. And I was going to do it with Blacklist, but Blacklist isn't like Game of Thrones. I mean, there's a lot more episodes per season.
There is.
So it's hard to just watch the last season and catch back up. 22 episodes. How did season 2 hold up for you?
The first 8, the Berlin saga, closing that up, epic. Still loved every minute of it. I don't know why people, for some reason, it didn't seem like Monarch Douglas Bank registered with a lot of people, but there's so much good information in there. How it ties into the Cabal without you even knowing it's the Cabal, with him moving the shipment and making sure his employers were covered. So I still think the Cabal and Berlin were tied together somehow. When you think about that, and then you look at how it all progressed, and Red's moving all these chess pieces on the board with owning the ports back in season 1, and then he's still doing stuff to secure places on the map with Ruslan Denizov. With there was another episode earlier in season 1, Dr. James Covington, taking him off the board so the guy would die so that he could secure that port. So I think it's interesting to watch his criminal empire grow. And then when you get to the end of season 2, and the whole frame job is about how Red used the FBI and this KGB quote-unquote rogue agent in Elizabeth Keene to further his business exploits. And it all ties into the lie. And now the question is that the truth? Is Red really bad, or is Red really good? And that's what I think we're going to explore through the course of season 3.
Well, yeah, obviously. And also, we're going to get a little bit more Tom story. We're going to get more wrestler. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming for season 3, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, the fact that you just rewatched all that, do you feel like you're better than the rest of us?
No, not at all.
Sure?
There's still a ton that you just miss. I mean, I was picking up new stuff. I was going back and validating some stuff.
What was the big revelation other than the Connolly thing? Because I actually remembered that. So what is the biggest revelation you got from rewatching it where you're like, wow, now I see some? Did you see any pieces in like early season 1 that really fit in the later season 2 or something?
Nothing that I didn't already know or pick up on. I still go back to that very, very first pilot episode and that very first discussion that he has with Liz when he comes out of the box for the first time. And the key line he says there is that everything about me is a lie. Like from the get-go. Like you can't trust anything he says, anything he does, because everything about him is a lie. That is a key statement for the entire series.
Now, see,
I'm not just saying that because of my crazy theory.
Yeah, I know. I've claimed this for the whole time we did this last year. So many people were yelling at me because they were telling me what the rules were with Red. You know, that he would never lie to Liz because he said he would never lie to Liz. I go back to that every single time because the very first episode he tells you, I'm a liar. So even to Liz, everything about him is a lie. And he never wavers from that. I think, the showrunners have alluded to he wouldn't lie to Liz. Everybody else alluded to it. But nobody flat out says he absolutely would never lie to Liz on the show. They just kind of hint around it. I am not sold on that concept. I think it's completely possible that Red still lies to her to some degree. He manipulates the situation. I think he would lie point blank to his face. So I don't trust anything anybody says until this show is ended.
Yeah, because we learned that lesson when we all said at the end of season 1, oh, it's got to be purgatory. They're in purgatory. Mm-hmm. And then...
are you going back to Lost here?
Well, because I'm making a correlation point that Damon and Carlton said, it's not purgatory. And then you get to season 6, and it's not purgatory, but it's very close to purgatory on what they do with the Flash Sideways. Mm-hmm. So they kind of worked their way around it. So even though John said on the DVD box set for season 1 that, no, he is not the father,
Well, actually...
no, he never lies to Liz, probably.
Right. Exactly. They're not going to tip that hat.
Right.
Yeah, the red hat. And to go back to Lost, I actually talked to the Resurrection showrunners who worked with the Lost writers, and they said it was purgatory the first season. They just had to change it because the fans all guessed it.
Right.
So,
fans are smart, and that's why we love every single one of you.
Smart. Yeah, very, very smart. Well, before we go into the characters and kind of try to see where we're at with everybody or where we want to see them this year, because if you want like a recap of the season, I think we did a very good job with our final episode of season 2, so definitely go check that out. I want to know, for right now, before we move into the characters, what do you want to do with the comic book summary here? Do you want to tell me what the story is, or is that a spoiler that you should wait until the end?
No, I think it's good. What we'll talk about is this. So the story is about a gentleman named the Gambler, and his name is revealed in the 3rd issue. And when you get to that 3rd issue, you actually find out that there's history between the Gambler and Red back in Venice in 1992. It almost was like they were working together, and then something happened that they either crossed paths or went separate ways. And it was right in that time of 1990 to 1994 when you go back to season 1 of the Blacklist on the TV show where he disappeared from the grid in 90 and then resurfaced in 94 as a criminal. So this Venice in 1992 was during his criminal activity period. And what I found really interesting about that story and this, building up his network and the people that he worked with, I think that's kind of what I want to see out of season 3. I want to see the time between 1990 and 1994 and who these people are that he made into his network and see some of his network as they're on the run this season. Who does he need to touch base with? Who does he need to connect with? Who needs to help him hide or move or transfer or whatever? I think that was really interesting when they brought it back to 1992, and I was like, ooh, that's in that window that we don't know anything about Red at all from an FBI perspective. And as they're doing that, the Gambler is hiring additional blacklisters that Red knows about. Because the Gambler Red alludes to in the 3rd issue is that the Gambler is not on his blacklist. So that means that he's one of probably Red's informants, like Glenn on the DMV. So because I was confused after that first episode. I was like, well, are there 2 blacklisters? Is the Gambler a blacklister? Because I don't identify him as a number. And then at the 3rd issue, they're like, the Gambler's not on my blacklist. So I've been trying to find him. I haven't found him. Now I know who he is. Now I know where to get him. So now he goes out and finds his old buddy. So the only blacklister in the first 3 issues is one by the name of Kuklinski. I believe he was number. I'm not gonna guess. I don't have it right in front of me. But he is denoted as a blacklister. And then at the end of the third issue, this other guy comes into the mix by the name of, I believe it was John X. John X.
That's his name?
John X is what it says in the Cliff Notes. It wasn't actually said in the third issue. It's
Okay.
in the preview pane for issue 4, which will come out in October. So it sounds like they're going to keep going with the releases one a month. And John X is like a bounty hunter, and he is only worried about being the best. So he won't take bounty hunter jobs to kill like easy people that could off no problem. Like he wants the real challenge, because if he can off the challenge, then he's better than the challenge. And,
Right. All right.
and so Kuklinski is actually really high up on his list. John X actually thought Kuklinski was one of the best people out there at what he did. And then John X says, okay, the gambler has a new game. You got to run and touch this post. And if you can touch that post in 10 seconds, I'll spare your life. And of course, the comics, shows him reaching out for the post. And just as he reaches for the post, the bullet goes through his head and blam, blood splatter everywhere. So that is really, really interesting. So John X, I'm assuming, is going to be the second Blacklister in the comic book when issue 4 comes out in October.
And these are going to pop up on the series, right? According to what the showrunner said.
That's what we've heard. So whenever there's a Blacklister like Kuklinski, which theoretically he's dead in the third issue.
Well, theoretically, yeah. But, I mean, like you said, apparently people are on body bags and they're fine.
Right.
Just a head wound. It's all right.
But the more important thing is this is supposed to be taking place between season 2 and after the events of Alan Fitch's death and the end of season 2. So it's not to say that we couldn't see Kuklinski show up in like a flashback or backstory as we learn about who these people are that Red's going to be working with in season 3. So if Kuklinski does come in, they're going to like denote like with an asterisk or something in that opening credit sequence where they flash the Blacklister name across the screen. They'll denote on there who was from the comic and who wasn't.
All right. Well, at least now people that haven't read the comics, which I assume is a large portion of our audience, now you kind of have an idea what the story was that was told.
Yeah, the general gist of the story is the gambler is a guy who just likes to bet on events happening, and then bad guys will place bets with him, like will they escape?
So it's the player. It's the player.
It's totally the player.
NBC is like plugging their other show. Smart.
By the time I got to the third issue, it was like, oh, duh, light bulb. Hello.
Where's Wesley Snipes at?
I'm waiting for him to show up, right? It's a crossover event.
So you think they take place in the same universe? Player and Blacklist?
They could. Wouldn't that be kind of neat?
I'm fine with it. I love Wesley Snipes, man. Put him in the Blacklist. That would make it great. I would love it.
But Kuklinski specifically was had some issue with being set up in his hometown, and then the media botched the thing. So they actually brought in this like real world topic of the whole police thing, right? Police are overusing their force, and the media are recording the police overusing their force. So they've kind of brought that into the story in the comic book a little bit to give it a real life tie-in. Mm-hmm. And then that's what they do, is that they use the media to frame the FBI. So while the FBI is being framed for all of these murders and a bomb at the governor's mansion, Red and Liz are trying to figure it out and unwind it because the FBI says, well, we're already in enough hot water, so you're off the case, like they do every week on the Blacklist, right? You're off the case, but they still investigate it. Mm-hmm. Same trope in the comic book. And as they keep going and digging deeper, they actually get to a point where they're about to figure it out, and then Red shows up between these two cannons at a Civil War reenactment, and the cannons explode, and Red, quote-unquote, dies right in front of Liz.
Oh, gotcha.
So
we don't want to spend too much time on the comic book because, honestly, most people are probably not that interested in it. I know that's for a very small niche audience.
Reading all 3 issues back to back, it was much more riveting than trying to read just one issue at a time.
Oh, I could see that.
So when it's all said and done, when season 1 of the comic is complete, which is supposed to be 6 issues, then I would say pick it up in the off-season next summer and just read through all 6 issues at once as a complete story.
Well, let's talk about season 3 of the TV show that everybody loves. We love it. You love it. Obviously, you love it. If you're listening to this and you don't love it, I don't understand. Unless you just like to hear our dulcet tones, I guess that's a possibility.
People like us?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I hope so. I don't know if they like you, but I feel loved. Let's talk about season 3. Let's say the one thing you most want to see happen this season. Let's start with that. What is the number one thing you want to see? You've just talked 27 minutes on comic books, so I'm gonna take this first. The number one thing I want to see this season is a resolution to the relationship between Tom and Liz. I said this last season, their romance has bored me. Now, I'm fine with keeping Tom involved with the show if he's going to be kind of a help at some point. But the romance between them, for me, all of the betrayal, I just don't see how that's feasible. Even from somebody that's smitten, I think there comes a point where it affects my appreciation of the character if they keep accepting another character that just continues to do horrible things to them. Make sense?
It totally does. I don't know why you're so obsessed with Tom, though.
I just want the romance to go away. It's really what it is. It's one of those things. This is a show I love. This is a show I absolutely love. Love talking about it. Love watching it. The only time I ever where I literally stop, look at my watch, and go, well, I don't have a watch, but look at where my watch would be if I had one, and go, man, how long is this going to take? Is whenever the romance between Tom and Liz pops up. Whenever there's I wonder if I could ever go back to him. I wonder if, that stuff just kills it for me. Literally stops the show dead in its tracks for me because I just don't buy it and I don't care. I love everything else about the show, so I'm sure some people are like, well, why do you hate on it? I don't hate on it at all. That one little element is the one thing I don't like, so I want some resolution to it. If you need to keep Tom involved in some aspect where he's still going to be working with Liz, and because of their complicated past, it causes friction, that'd be cool. But if you're going to keep playing with the will they, won't they get back together, that doesn't work for me at all as a fan.
Well, I think at the end of second season, they're together, right? They've trusted each other. They've copulated. And because of that, I think what we're going to see out of Tom in season 3 is a more Tom redemption story. I think what we're going to get, especially with not only Tom, but Wrestler as well, we've been saying for 2 seasons, like, make Wrestler more of something other than just a punching bag. And so now that he's the acting director of the task force, we're going to see a deeper development of Wrestler and what Wrestler's character really stands for. Is he truly truth above all else? Is he willing to bend a little bit like Cooper was for Liz because of the past partner relationship? And I think Tom is going to be that same thing. Is he going to be Jacob Phelps, the innocent boy before all of this happened, and really go back to his roots, and yet at the end of the day he really loves Liz and therefore he'll do anything for her, especially now that she's being hunted? Or is he still the master manipulator, character in disguise kind of guy? And I think that's what we're going to see out of season 3 is a return to Jacob in his truest essence as he tries to help Liz escape and move around the world.
I know I'm in the minority. I am just not a fan of that relationship. I just want it to end.
So
I don't care how it ends. It can end in a fireball. It can end in a conversation where they're just like, you know what? Bygones be bygones. This ain't going to work. Handshake. We're good.
So if they weren't romantically involved,
it wouldn't bother me as much. I can't buy the romance. I just don't buy it. Even Liz is so smart. She's strong. She's independent. It makes no rational sense, even with her issues and even with her red issues and even with her trust issues. It makes absolutely no sense that she would get involved with this man again after he basically upended her life.
What about Stockholm Syndrome?
Oh, I think she's too smart a character for that.
You think? Okay, well then let's look at it from a Red perspective. Even in the finale, she's like, every time I think you're trying to help me, then you block me, and I'm done with you. No, I'm back with. No, I'm done. No, I'm back with you. She's got the same relationship with Red that she has with Tom in that regard, emotionally manipulated.
I agree with that, and that's why it frustrates me so much, is because I already have to deal with that on one end. I don't want to have to deal with that with another character. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I never have. I realize they copulated, as you said, and you're hoping for, a baby to spring out of this, maybe twins, maybe we can get triplets. I don't know. But I really don't want that to happen either. I would like them to resolve. But that's enough on that. I'm sure I don't want to anger listeners, because I know a lot of people love that romance, and I'm not poo-pooing your love for that. It's just something I hope you understand where I'm coming from at the very least.
Well, remember, you technically have 3 potential romances. Now, there's still the people that, of course, want the shipping to happen between Red and Liz. And it was actually even discussed in an interview that
I don't know anybody that wants that.
there's a ton of people that want that.
I don't know.
I don't want that, but there's a ton of people out there that really think at the end of season 2, when he puts his hand on her knee and then she puts her head on his shoulder,
What?
like all the shippers were like, "Oh my gosh, they're going to get together in season 3," and they were like, "Yay!"
So this is why I don't listen to a bunch of crazy theories, because it just makes my head hurt. So basically, people have spent 2 seasons debating whether or not Red is her dad. Now they're cool with them hooking up.
Hey, the people that were the shippers never were on the Daddygate wagon.
Okay.
The Daddygate wagon is the Daddygate wagon. The shippers are the shippers. They're 2 different camps. It's like the Cabal versus Red's network.
I think he is way more of a father figure type. It's not. I'm not saying father. I'm saying father figure type than a romantic interest. I think there's plenty of romantic interest to go around. Hell, at some point she could go for Amar, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think that will happen, but I could see potentially that thing that was brewing at the end of season 1, which was very prevalent when I did the rewatch, and then it just kind of like disappeared in season 2. And maybe it's because they're holding it for season 3, but the connection between her and Wrestler.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. That was definitely there. I think they pulled it back a little bit. I think they were worried of pulling the trigger a little too early on that one.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that there needs to be more known about Wrestler through the course of season 3 now that he's in this position, and through that maybe some things will happen that will cause him to need Liz or Liz to need him, and that'll draw them closer together potentially, which will then just anger Tom because Tom and Wrestler don't get along at all.
So what's the one thing you most want to happen this season?
Well, I kind of mentioned in the comic book summary that I would really like to see Red's network. I want to see more of Red's friends like Vargas and Glenn and those guys, and the dude that was torturing the guy at the end of the second season. I want to see like his people, because we've kind of learned a little bit about the Cabal. So I think for me, I want to see who the Cabal players are and their relationships and how they connect with Red's network of people, the Syndicate. And do any of them cross over at any point? I think season 3, I really want the flashback stories. I want to know what happened between 1990 and 1994 specifically, but I think that's probably more of the bigger play and the big reveal at the end of the series. But then what happened between 1994 and showing up at the FBI's front door when the season started? I think that would be really great to find out some of the interworkings of who's related to who and how. And that could go for maybe 2 seasons even, because it's such a long, expansive time.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much story here that they haven't even cracked the seal on. So I'm really looking for what else. Here's some. Let's talk about any other ideas we have for where the season's going. I think you're going to get the first day. Is it 8 episodes they're going to do again this year? Is you're going to do the same thing, like 8 and 16, where it's like 8 seasons in the fall and then 16 throughout next year? Yeah,
since they don't have the Super Bowl episode, I don't know how they're going to split it up. I haven't seen anything describing if it's going to be like an 11-11 Once Upon a Time formula, or if it's going to be 8 and 16. I think at this point we were at a clean break at the end, right? We had a 30-episode Berlin story, and then whatever 44 minus 30 is, 14, Fulcrum story. So now the Fulcrum is out. Newspapers are leaking the information. The director's reading it at his desk. So now we're in a brand new setup for a new villain for season 3.
Yeah,
the question is who is that villain, and what is the relationship to the Cabal for that villain?
Yeah, and I want to explain something to listeners. Like I've actually gotten a couple pings on Facebook, like instant messages from fans, listeners, who wanted to know. I've been very quiet over the summer in terms of the Blacklist, like not on Twitter, not as active in the group, and a lot of that is because I don't like to get spoiled. It's nothing personal. I love the show, but I'm a big spoiler guy. And unfortunately, as you near a show's end, especially during summer, as you get closer and closer and closer to the premiere date, way too much information. And some people don't think some things are spoilers. I tend to think like I am very spoiler weary. I saw a picture of a returning guest star, and it irritated me just because now I know. And I didn't want to know. I wanted to be surprised. I don't watch the preview for the pilot for the premiere. I don't watch the preview for the next episode. I really try to avoid that stuff simply because for me, this is one of those shows. It's like a Lost or an Alias or one of those 24, a very heavily serialized show. I don't want to know everything ahead of time. I want to enjoy the surprises. I want to enjoy the deliveries, the reveals. I don't want to know everything going in, and so I've been avoiding it. So for those guys, that's why I've been off off the books, so to speak.
Which means that Aaron's going to be turning down his volume on his end of the recording as I explain what we do know about season 3, because some of it may be, in Aaron's words, a spoiler to him, but just cool information for most people because it's not really a spoiler.
But that's why you're doing it, near the end. And basically, I will turn off, and you just let me know when you're back because I don't want to hear it. I am very much somebody that doesn't want to, and I'm sure there are listeners too, which is why we don't do spoil. When we actually do the episode-to-episode podcast, because for people that have never listened, and I'm sure there are plenty of new ones because you didn't listen last season, you're just getting into the show, you found it over the summer or something, found it on Netflix, whatever. We take it episode by episode. We take the basic plot of the episode, and then we break down the characters, and we only stay to that episode. We don't talk about the preview for the next episode or anything like that, and that is why. So, but when it comes to season 3, so I don't know anything that's going to happen. I don't know who's coming back. I don't know exactly, where the story's going to go. All I know are my theories. And my theory is you're going to get the blowback from the releasing the fulcrum information to the press reporters. That has to be a huge factor, right? You can't drop that bomb and just walk away. So I think we're going to have a huge amount of that involved. And I'm curious as to how that's going to play out because, now that it's out there, do you think that people are not going to buy into it? I mean, how do they resolve something that huge? Because that's almost a series in itself.
Well, when you think about it, it's conspiracy theory. So who's going to believe who? And I think that's why Red specifically picked those 15 top journalists in their field, the best investigative reporters I could find. And I think that'll give the story some credibility, but it's so unbelievable that does the public really buy into it? Just because, great. I love it because it's using such real world concepts. So when you think about, who was it? Brian Williams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was me. I was there. I was
you
on the chopper.
You hang on every word he says and assume that it's true. Now, did he fabricate a small thing? Sure. Does that make him 100% unreliable from anything he's ever said? No. He's reporting what he reports, right? Somebody else writes the news. He just reads it on the camera. So, should he have gotten fired for it? Sure, because he lied, whatever. But I love the fact that there's that doubt, that the American people gets this doubt put in there. And because that doubt is in there, you still have, okay, though this is a known investigative reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times or whatever. And because one of the reporters was from Chicago, I caught that in the rewatch. I didn't catch it the first time.
That has to make you happy being from Chicago.
It did. I was like, hey, I know that place.
I've been there.
Been there. Then we did that, and I was just like, yeah, but even if that story were to come out in the Trib or the Sun-Times, and I read that at my table over my cornflakes and coffee or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, right, and just throw it to the side. Like, there's no way you would believe something that, audacious,
Absolutely. It's the way I'm looking at it is I think it could very much play out in the way Area 51, where you have this really almost absurd story that's out there.
That's totally real, though.
Yeah, that's total. Well, some people think it is. A lot of conspiracy theorists think it is. You have this absurd story that's out there. It's reported on by reporters both with integrity and without integrity. And so the public has to look at that and go, wow, I think they're going to present it as everybody buys into it, like it's an Edward Snowden thing. They blew up this secret organization that was ruining things for everybody else. I think that's kind of the direction, my personal opinion, the direction that they're going to take it. Everything I've seen with the show seems like they have an extremely smart writing staff. They are trying to take things as realistically as possible. There are fantastical elements, but they are trying to take everything as realistically as possible. And I don't see how they do it without treating it like a real threat, real issue, real revelation.
Yeah, and that goes right into what I said. I think the cabal hires somebody to deal with these reporters. They're like the mastermind, the master villain through the course of the season.
How do you deal with the report? Once the story's out there, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's done.
I suppose.
It's out there. Everybody, because once it's out there, it's no longer 15 internet journalists or journalists, whatever. It's a billion internet nuts. It's all of us. Because then we're like Google and Wikipedia and everything. Everybody's searching for everything. And there's no getting away from it now.
Totally true. And then if you think about it, if they did go after the reporters or their families and they end up dead and someone finds out about it, then it just adds more credibility to the story.
Yep. Let's go into where we think the characters themselves are going to end up this season. Now, Red, when we left off, he's taken Liz under his wing, it seems. So where do you think we're going to see him this year, and what do you want out of him this year?
Well, the big question is can they even get out of DC? I mean, that place locks down really quickly. So how do you get out of DC first? Because they were still driving in DC, or are they just going to time jump and be like in, Bora Bora or something when the season opens?
Bora Bora. I think Red can pretty much do whatever he wants. I'm sure he has an underground subway. He has a tunnel. He's like that drug lord in Mexico. He's got like a tunnel built up to the back of his cell.
Got his own pneumatic tube to go to Greenland.
Oh yeah, so I have no problem. They're already out. I think they were out before the show credits even hit.
Yeah, the question is do they spend the time trying to clear Liz's name, or do they just keep doing what they're doing on the run for a long period of time? That's the question. How long will they be on the run, and when will the running get resolved so that Liz can come back into the task force?
Okay, and what do you want to see from Red this season?
I want to see him, I guess, not be so much of the father figure, but more fatherly figure, right? Don't want to construe anybody there. So more, not so much as the fatherly figure, but more as the survivalist. Liz, this is how you survive in the real world. This is what being in the United States, you're hidden from your entire training, your entire upbringing. This is the things you don't know that happen, and really show her what the real world is all about.
Okay.
Which I guess is kind of fatherly, right? You're looking out for their best interests as they grow up and stuff, but I really want him to explain what really happens on a day-to-day basis, not only in the criminal world, but in the business world, and how that all ties together.
And we keep saying fatherly. I want to be clear because somebody's yelling at the TV. Did you not see that interview with whoever? We are 100% on board. We understand. Bokenkamp, the showrunner, went on the record and said definitively Red is not her father. That's all he said. And the cast member said the same thing. So we understand Red is not her dad.
He's somebody's dad, though, because he blew up that house. And I analyzed that episode on the rewatch. I was like, why the heck did he blow up this house again? Who's the girl? Why is there height marks in the side? And it's still frustrating watching that one.
Did you get anything new from watching it?
Not really.
No?
It's just like, and then the going to the ballet, and every year on this same date he goes to the ballet, and it just keeps coming back into why would you do that if you're not a parent? And if you're not the parent, and maybe it goes back into the Sin Eater conversation at the end of season 2. Like, he was doing everything he could, blocked her memory so that she wouldn't remember shooting her own dad. Mm-hmm. Maybe he grew so attached to Liz as her Sin Eater that he would go to the ballet, or he would go to the house, and maybe it wasn't his house. Maybe he was just pissed off at all the stuff that happened there, and he was actually seeing a vision of Lizzie in the yard, but it wasn't really his daughter. You know what I mean?
I'm still in the camp that it could be like his niece or something, and basically his family, his brother and wife and children or whatever, were brutally murdered because of him or something. I could see him, like I've said, the uncle. Like he's the uncle father figure, because he's trying to look out for her because it's his fault that her family is gone. That's kind of in the camp that I'm at.
Or some of the theories out there that he's the twin brother.
I hate twins in anything, but I mean, yeah, that is one of the theories. But I am not a fan of twins in anything, because every time I hear twin, I think A, Jean-Claude Van Damme in Double Impact, never a good comparison, and B, like Days of Our Lives or something. It just feels like a soap opera twist. You know what I mean, right?
It does.
It does. For me, all I want to see this season is I want to see the continue. I know a lot of people love when Red is bad, right? Everybody loves when Red is the bad guy. I actually love the little moments that Spader has with not just Liz, but with Dembe, the slow, sweet, subtle moments with Dembe, with even Wrestler, with the little moments he has with Amar. I love the little moments he has. I like when Red is bad, but I like it more when that's actually the small doses we get, as opposed to, I want more of the warmth of the character. And then the evil or the dark side comes out in smaller sections. So it's more of a burst, and we don't see it coming as much. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's evolved into this Billy Badass, and people just expect him to be a badass. And I kind of want to pull that back a little bit, show more of his warmth, and show more of his seduction methods, because you got to remember, he fools everyone. But I think last season they kind of gave him so many moments, so many big moments, that you almost forgot that he fools people. You know, he gets under their skin and they don't realize he's so badass until it's too late. I want more of that.
Yeah, I love it was the episode 1 scene where he was interrogating Ram, and he's like, I can put this gun back together, and you better have the code for the bank when I was trying to do the mole hunt. Mm-hmm. And then he starts putting the gun together, and Ram does. I want those kind of things where he just, those little tiny moments. I agree with you 100%. I got such a kick out of watching that scene again.
Because do you know what I mean, though? Did you see from rewatching it, like season 2, he got so many of those, it almost became hard to remember that he was so smooth, He was big and bombastic, and I just want him to go back to season 1, a little bit more season 1, Red.
And it's really interesting when you watch the rewatch, and you can think about where were you when Lu Li's head exploded against the box, and as Dembe and Red are praying together outside of the box, and Ansel Garrick, and just the tension and the shock, and you're like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? And then you watch it the second time, and when he's praying with Dembe after you saw the Mombasa cartel, and you're just like, I actually teared up a little bit, and I was like, wow, it's like the emotions you get when you know the whole story versus when you don't know the story.
Absolutely.
And that's when you know you have a great TV show, because you can feel something different every time you watch it.
It is. It's still one of my must-see TV shows. Well, very few. I don't have many of those anymore because there's so many, DVR and Hulu make my life worth living. But, man, Blacklist, Walking Dead, there's very few shows I have to watch when it airs, and this is one of them.
Most people would say DVR and Netflix. Or even Amazon. You go with Hulu.
Man.
You went with Hulu.
I love Hulu. Because Hulu is the day after. The day after. And I love Hulu. And now Hulu's got commercial free now. Score.
That's if you're paying for it.
It's $4 more, man.
I know.
$4, and I don't have to sit there and watch another underwear commercial. I'm good. I'm good with that.
Well, the day after is also a paid service. You can get it free if you wait like 8 days or 10 days or whatever it is. But if you want it the next morning, you do have to pay.
I'm cool with that.
And if you want it on your mobile device or Roku or Apple TV, you have to pay.
Sometimes you just have to do that, man. You have to pay the money to get the love, get the experience. That's what I want. Let's go to Liz. What do you think about Liz? What do you want to see from her this season, and what do you think we're going to see from her this season?
It's really interesting because you go through the comic book, and if the comic book is going to be canon, she has this really big thing about wanting to do the right thing because in the first issue, she goes back and she has to go back to Quantico to finish her training because she never finished her training originally, apparently, when she did get that job on her first day at the start of the season. And then as you progress, she gets pulled out of the training again, so she still hasn't really completed it. So she actually renders her service arm. So that way she doesn't have a gun because she shouldn't have it because she's playing by the book. And then she gets to the end of the third issue, and she's like, hey, we're really in a bind. I need my weapon. It's like, can I finish my test? And the instructor guy's like, I don't know who you have on the inside, but your friend said you're clear. And the director Hackett already approved you to do what you need to do. And then she finds out that Red was the one pulling the strings, of course, to get her out of the training and into the FBI sooner. Just happened to be on the day that he shows up on the front doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that that's in her character, and you see a little bit of that in season 1, I'm interested to see if she'll go back to that, straight up playing by the rules, being that person, or now that she's tasted blood and killed in cold blood, she made the decision to kill Connolly. She pulled the trigger, nobody else. That was all her. Now that she's had that taste and seen what Red's all about, can she ever go back to being that simple person? Because you remember she had a criminal past as well from that pilot opener.
She's going to be Jack Bauer, man. I'm calling it. By the end of season 3, we're gonna hear stuff like Liz Bauer. We're gonna hear comments like that. That's what I'm calling it right now. By the end of season 3, she's gonna be Billy Badass.
Jack Keane.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds cooler.
Jack Keane. All right, Jacqueline Bauer.
There you go.
That's what she's gonna be. I see it. I totally see it because they've been leading her down that path, that dark path, for so long. Season 2 was all about taking Liz from where she was and taking her to the darkness. And starting with the torture of Tom in that boat, and then when she, all the way up until when that harbor master got killed. Basically, they've been luring her, and then Connolly, they've been luring her down this path of darkness, and now she's there. I know a lot of fans want to see her clear her name. I don't know if that happens, or at least I don't see it happening in the immediate future. Like, I think maybe by the end of season 3, they'll bring her back a little bit, or she'll feel like she needs to go back in order to complete whatever their mission is at that point. But I don't see her ever coming back to the squeaky clean Liz that she was at the beginning of season 1. Fairly squeaky clean.
Fairly squeaky clean. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just laughing in my head after just watching the finale this morning. There was that meme that was going around with Reddington's face on Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Hey, Liz, I am your father. And so I was just thinking in my head now, I could picture the Emperor right after she shoots Connolly going, "Your transition to the dark side is complete."
Good. Do you think fans are going to let that one go about him being her dad?
I would hope by now, by season 3, they've let it go. And then all of a sudden it becomes like the reveal at the end, like, "Oh, I was your father all along." And then people get pissed off.
Now you put it in their heads again. Some people are probably like, "Yeah, I'm over it." And then you're like, "Wait, that would be a great, oh, they got me," you know?
That's the only reason I'm still holding on to my theory, because it would be awesome if it happened, because it's a twist nobody would see coming. But
okay, just because
I am tempering this season based on the rewatch. There are some things that still support it, but I am tempering.
If you can do it very quickly, because you know it irritates me, and I know it irritates some listeners too. But for some people that have never heard our podcast before, like they're coming into it fresh because they just finished season 2, they just caught up on Netflix. You can get your subscription, $7.99. Tell people very quickly, Troy. Don't make me endure this all over again. What is your theory that you keep mentioning?
So the original concept was that John Bokenkamp writes for strong female characters. And because of that, like he did Taking Lives with Angelina Jolie, for example, and he's always written for strong female leads. And so wouldn't it be great if the twist for this show would be that you're expecting Liz to be that strong female lead, but potentially could it be that Reddington was the strong female lead? And so as I start to do the watching and things like, everything about me is a lie, he's talking to Naomi, "You look a little bit different. Hey, you know your way around women better than anybody," when Naomi talks to Liz in season 2. There's a whole bunch of things in season 1 that I actually commented on in the Facebook group that were points that would support the theory. And the theory is that the reason why, and it really shows at the end of the second season when they're sitting on that bench, and she says, "You're my sin eater, and that's because I didn't want you to be like me," and then touches her knee. It seems more like you said, a parental or a caregiver relationship. So my theory as the season's gone on has been, wouldn't it be a great twist if he pulls the Scooby mask off at the end and Red is Masha Rostova? Because even the guy who's supposed to know Masha Rostova, this Russian informant that Red's having drinks with and then Liz ends up seeing later in the finale, he said, "I don't even know her. I just hear the stories." And then Red's like, "You can't tell anybody about Masha." Like he blocks him, like literally straight up blocks him. Like, do not talk to anybody about Masha. Because the reason why she's a ghost is because he's the ghost. He is Masha. He's Christina, in my mind.
In your mind. Yeah, I'm going with Uncle, but, now you know what Troy's theory, if you never heard it, that's the insane theory that he has that has offended so many people. There's been so much hate messages and whatnot at poor Troy over that theory. Some by me. Granted, some of those are me. And sometimes I use other people's accounts just to hate on them for it.
Hey, and it's just a theory, right? The twin brother thing is the theory. The uncle thing is the theory.
I like Mom better than I like the twin brother. That's how much I hate that
twin
brother.
Oh, look out. You just got hate mail in your box now.
I hate twin brothers, man. I'm not a fan. Never have been. Whenever you have twins, it just... Oh.
Well, and then the mother theory and the twin brother theory actually combined because then they were, fraternal twins. One was a brother, one was a sister. Mm-hmm. And they were actually, the real Red Reddington's sister was Katerina Rostova. And so then when...
so my uncle theory would even hold true in that respect.
It would. All three of them could be potentially the same theory.
Let's move on before we irritate anybody else anymore. But that is his theory, so now you know what he's talking about when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Tom. And that's the alive Tom, the one where 100% is sure that he's alive and driving around the marina looking for Dexter at some point.
So I caught this in the finale. Maybe it was in Karakurt. He specifically said, "Try calling me Jacob." So he wants us to call him Jacob. So do we start calling him Jacob?
I don't know. It's a hard transition when a character... Well, I mean, it's fine. I guess we can. I don't care. Should we call him Jake? Here's the thing. When the premiere airs, we'll see where everybody refers to him. If they still mention him as Tom ever, then we stick with Tom. Or we'll just do the take-up. We'll do take-up or Jacom, something like that. We'll figure something out.
Or you could tell us if it makes it easier for you guys just to follow the story. Let us know. Shoot us out on Facebook or at the Blacklist GSM on Twitter. Let us know if you want us to keep calling him Tom Keene. We'll keep calling him Tom Keene just for your benefit, or we'll call him Jacob Phelps if that makes it easier, so you don't confuse him with Tom Connolly.
Now, I've already told you what I want to see from Tom this season. I will tell you what I think we'll see. I think we probably will see an escalation of the romance. I think you will see. Well, you actually already spoke to it too. I think we're going to see Tom trying to prove himself to be a good man again. I don't know why, because he's kind of been a trained assassin apparently for a long time. But I think he wants to be the man that Liz wanted him to be originally now. Yes.
I need a hero.
Exactly. And we'll probably hear that song at some point.
Totally. Especially as he's speeding in on his boat.
I agree. I think that's what we're going to see. Is there anything else you want to add to Tom? We kind of talked about him ad nauseum already, but
yeah, I think he's going to, I really think it's a redemption story for Tom this year. I've already said that. I think that it's going to be him coming back to be who Jacob really is and then explaining to Liz who Jacob really is so they could foster that relationship. Now, whether they actually get back together romantically or not remains to be seen, because Liz is going to have experiences before Tom comes into the picture that may still pull her away from Tom, a.k.a. Jacob Phelps. So I think I'm with you, and I don't really like the romanticness of it. I like them as kind of like Cagney and Lacey, or a duo, a partnership, almost like her and Wrestler were in season 1, and then have her romantically find something else somewhere else, or not at all.
That's a good segue. Let's go to Wrestler, because I think we've talked about Tom enough. I don't really think there's much more we can add to him. Wrestler. This poor guy. Let's take a minute and remember all the cool moments that he had in season 2. There you go. He not many. The poor guy, I love his work on the show. I think the character has finally come into his own. I think we're finally at a point where they seem to be struggling in the second season to know what to do with his character. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think we're at a point now where, as him as the acting director of the task force, the guy who always plays by the rules, Revan even says that in the finale. I need someone who can play by the rules, but still, suspect the doubt to be a good investigator. I think that's what we're going to see out of him, is he's going to do everything he can to investigate the truth, and then he'll end up exposing the truth, which actually puts him in harm's way from the Cabal. And I think that's where Liz and potentially Tom have to come to his rescue.
Right. And what I noticed looking back on the show, looking back on season 2, is that he seemed much more prominent in season 1, and they were building toward this relationship with Liz and him. And I think they decided to change course. It feels to me, I'm not saying that that's true. Maybe we can find out at some point. It felt like they changed course a little bit, and they recalculated their focus because they didn't want to kick Tom off the show just yet, or they saw some more potential for his character, right? So Wrestler, unfortunately, took more of a background. Where I thought it was going to be more of a Mulder and Scully thing, it ended up being just more of Scully and Mulder, the 8th season, where he's not there.
Right.
And as the show progressed, I think they finally started to see, well, here's where we can fit him, because we're having a hard time having this partnership. They tried to give him the drug addiction thing. They saw that wasn't working. They did try to introduce some elements to keep him energized and keep his character relevant for a lot of us. I just think a lot of those things just weren't clicking, and you had too much going on with the Liz and Tom thing, where it just took away from that. It was really hard to construct some budding romance between those two when you have, Tom always in the background. As the season went on, and as we finally came to the conclusion of season 2, where you have Wrestler's now in a position where he's in charge, he's the guy. Now we have somewhere that he can take over. Like, he can take over Cooper's slot, and he also has a relationship with Liz that's different from Cooper. So you have that. You have his want to actually bring some justice back to the government. I think there's a lot that they can play with him. And I also think, now this is a conspiracy theorist, okay? So hear me out. There's an opportunity to interject Wrestler as a threat. Do you think that's a possibility? That maybe, because he's been kind of goody two-shoes for so long, but then he had little bits of dangling on the side of wrong throughout last season?
A threat to who?
Well, let me finish. So you had a few of those. You remember those, right? Like he made some missteps where he kind of broke the rules a little bit here and there. Not much, but enough to where he saw how that could benefit him. Bend a little rule here and I can get a little bit more done. I think now that he's in charge, this would be a grand opportunity to show how the Cabal, or people like the Cabal, interject themselves into high-ranking officials, how they slowly but surely, and I know Connolly kind of did that with Cooper last year, but I want something even more subtle. Very, very mild, very, very slow, where he slowly comes under the thumb of people like the Cabal. Possibly even the Cabal.
So you think he becomes a Cabal agent, unbeknownst to him, and then he's like, oh, crap?
Exactly. I think, unlike Cooper, where Cooper really saw it coming rather quickly. I mean, that reveal was made pretty quickly, and I think we all knew it. We all saw it coming with Connolly. Even though we debated it a little bit, we kind of knew it, where it was going. I think this is a grand opportunity, like throughout the entire season, if you drop like a little thing here, a little thing there, as opposed to something so blatantly like, hey, help my friend out getting out of this jam, you could definitely make some changes there that are great. Some little subtle touches, though, that, you don't notice it. We don't notice it as viewers. And he does a little thing here. He makes a little bit. I'll make a deal with you on the little. I needed this piece of information. Well, yeah, if you can help my guy out, I'll get you this, or something like that. Something very, very small, and you don't even notice it. It never pays off, and for episodes upon episodes until like you get near the end, and we start seeing, oh no, I'm stuck. I'm screwed. And then by the end of season 3, he has to have Red's help to get out of it or something. I think that would be a cool little twist to his character.
I do like the wrestler being in the same position as Liz at the end of season 3, where Red needs to help wrestler out. I don't like the slight manipulations, only because we had that last season. I want to see something different. So how
would you do it?
So maybe it's something around family or other people that he cares about. I don't know. Something that, like being the director of the task force, as he's investigating Liz's thing, he uncovers things of the Cabal, like you were saying. But as he uncovers them, then his inner workings with certain people, he doesn't know who is Cabal or not. So it's not like he's being manipulated, but as he shares information, he doesn't know if he's sharing it with the good guys or the bad guys. And then he gets to a point where he shared so much information that he's now screwed.
Okay, I like that. That's good. Either way, I want a little bit more with wrestler. I think we're now in the position to where we can do that. And I will try, for those listening, I will try my best to get his name correctly every episode.
All right.
I can't promise, because I think I've called him Dressler, Wrestler, Dessler, Bressler. I mean, basically every combination of that name that you could think of, I've used. And actually, you know what? You just never know what you're going to get with me. I'm sorry. We'll see what happens. I will try. I'll do my darndest. What about Cooper? What do you think about Cooper? Where do we go with Cooper this season?
I think that Cooper is going to be the mysterious wild card for this season, because he turns in his badge. It looks like he's taken into custody. I watched that again this morning. And now that he's in custody, the question is he going to be cleared? Because he says, yeah, Liz shot him. Straight up. She did it, man. And then gives a confession, and he's clean, and then he's back. But then it takes away from the potential of wrestler running the task force. So I would have to assume that Cooper's going to be in custody for a long period of time to make wrestler running the task force be meaningful. So really, Cooper's kind of my wild card this season.
Okay, I'm kind of in the same boat. I really gave a lot of thought. I don't have a whole lot of ideas on Cooper. I wish I did, but I really don't. It's one of those where I just don't know how they can wrap up his storyline sufficiently and effectively and still keep him relevant to the show. The only thing I can see is maybe he leaves and he goes with Red as well, and he's helping them along the way. I don't know. We've got 3 more characters, but they're all minor characters that never really had a huge story impact, but they're always favorites of ours. Amar, Dembe, and Navabi. Is there any one of those that you want to see something major from this season?
No, not really. I love the comic relief of Amar. I think that we need to do that. I think Dembe is going to have to step up and get more speaking lines this season, just because we're not going to have that interaction with Red and Liz, because if they're on the run, we shouldn't see them as much. So we're I think Wrestler and Dembe are going to be working together more often to keep that back channel open, I think is what we'll see there. Navabi I could give or take. I mean, great to have her on the show for the comic relief from Amar, but Navabi was still Red's plant into the task force. So I still don't know how that's going to play out. It seems like she's just part of the task force now as the second season went along.
See, I disagree with you on that one. I think Wrestler, even though I said what I wanted to happen, what I think will happen is Wrestler will probably stay true to being a good guy, and he'll try to hunt them down because that's what his job is for the most part. I think Navabi is actually the contact that Dembe will use inside the task force.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't catch. Yeah, good call. Good call.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think will happen. And Amar and her relationship, I think, will escalate. And there's a possibility that maybe he'll find out her involvement with Red, and that puts him in a predicament. You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be great too. Yeah, totally.
There you go.
See, I'm not open yet to that forward thinking thing because I just relived the last 2 episodes very recently.
I understand.
My mind is clogged with details, and your mind's clogged with theories.
And Dembe, I think, is just going to, because he's now a full-time cast member, hopefully he'll get a little bit more story time than he's had in the past, and less, man, he's really creepy there hanging out in the background.
Yeah, and Kaplan was actually really big in the comic book, showing up quite a few times. So it'd be interesting to see if Kaplan pops up in season 3 quite a bit too.
Absolutely. Now we are going to do a little season 3. Here's what we know based on what the showrunners have told us about the upcoming season. Now, while Troy does this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go silent. So he's just basically going to tell you real quick what to expect, and then we'll be back. If you don't want to hear it, if you're like me, if you're super anal about spoilers, skip ahead about 2 to 3 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be that long.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Troy, you ping me when we're done.
Got it. Standing by.
Right.
Now, when the Blacklist returns for season 3, viewers will see a new format as Reddington and Liz become the fugitives hunted by their former colleagues of the FBI. According to a synopsis, the show will pick up right where the finale left off, with the two trying to flee Washington, D.C., as described by executive producer John Bokenkamp. Washington, D.C. is a place that can be locked down in an incredibly short amount of time, so that gives us our antsy anticipation, like build-up for the premiere. Red and Liz are named to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list and set out on the run to evade capture. Red calls upon a blacklister called the Troll Farmer to help him flee the city. So that'll be an interesting twist for season 3, as now Red is looking to blacklisters to help him get away rather than turn him over to the FBI. In order to help them get away, Liz will have a new look as a disguise, hence our opening this week back and blonder than ever. In the process of keeping her identity hidden, she will realize that she resembles her mother, Bokenkamp revealed. He added that it's the organic way of tying the current plot with the overall mythology of who Liz and Red really are as they find the answer to the bigger question of quote-unquote identity. Meanwhile, newcomer to the series, Eddie Gathegi, has been cast as the new season's villain, Mr. Solomon, a soft-spoken character that embodies a monster in gentleman's clothing, a.k.a. Red 2.0, if you think about it that way. He's reportedly the one handling the efforts or the works of the Cabal. For those who may be wondering if Red and Liz will form a romantic connection, Megan Boone teases that it has to be answered sometime in the show, although she thinks that she loves him, but not necessarily in a romantic way. Now, when it comes to Liz being together with Wrestler, executive producer John Eisendrath said that the two will not have any sort of boyfriend-girlfriend relationship anytime soon, as they will focus more on developing Wrestler's character. But in doing that, will put him in some emotionally vulnerable places, Eisendrath added at the end of the article. So that'll be what we'll see in season 3, a more deepening Wrestler character. We're going to see more relationship between Red and Liz, but not necessarily in a romantic way, and a villain for us to go. So we'll call this the Solomon story.
Hey, I'm back. What's going on? What'd I miss? Anything going on?
Nothing good. Nothing good.
Okay. Well, that's too bad. That's going to be our episode, right? I mean, we're pretty much at the end of our season 3 preview episode.
We are, but we still have some things to tell you about that super special secret.
Yeah, we have a couple things that we definitely have to talk about. Why don't you? How do you want to do this, man? How do you want to do this?
Why don't you tell them what we've been doing in the off season there, Aaron?
Okay, well, during the off season, we wanted to make the podcast accessible to even more people, so we developed an app. Well, Troy developed an app. I really was eating Cheetos and watching TV. But it is an app for both iOS and Android because we care about everyone. Not just the Apple huggers, not just the Google Play lovers. everyone, just search for the Blacklist Exposed in either app store because we have a few features you want handy.
Yeah, one of those features, first and foremost, is an easy way to email us or call us as soon as that episode ends with your thoughts right from your smartphone or tablet. As you're tweeting along, flip over to our app, boom, phone number right there. Call in your theories as soon as the episode ends. We want to raise the game to ensure everyone knows about the fulcrum and how to clear Lizzie's name. Plus, one podcast episode is out. You can then continue the conversation about that week's show, both the episode and the podcast episode, in the app, which basically that is a conversation going back and forth with all of you, the fans, which doesn't mean we're necessarily going to go away from the Blacklist Exposed Facebook group, but I know there's people that listen to the show that have not joined the Facebook group because maybe you just hate Facebook, which is fine. Now you have a Blacklist app that you can have all of your theory conversation in, which is going to be great.
I hope they're not holding out for Google Plus because I don't think that one's ever going to take off.
No.
Now the Facebook group is not going away ever. It's a burgeoning group. It keeps we've got more and more people joining every day. Hope you will. We just want to give you the option to discuss the episode with each other in any way that is easiest for you. But most importantly, ask us questions and provide thoughts and theories easily.
That's right.
It's how we communicate with our community. You know, we really want this to be a community. We really do.
Yeah, and whether it's asking us questions or asking each other questions. I mean, if you got a theory, put it out there, and then let's go ahead and have that cage match battle and throw down, prove your theory right or wrong in that conversation. Yeah. And tell Troy repeatedly how wrong his theory about Retta's mom is. I can take it. I have a thick skin.
Good.
That's the Blacklist Exposed, now on iOS and Android. Download it today. Secondly, we want to draw your attention to a new yet old friend of ours in the name of Jen. She actually operates the blacklistnbc.com, which is a super duper awesome Blacklist fan site. With the partnership with Jen, you'll actually be able to dig deeper into the theories and news and help you pass the time in between each of our episodes. And while you're on that site digging around, Jen has been so graciously allowed us to put a player for the podcast on her site. So as you're perusing the theories and stuff, you can just go ahead and listen to us as you kind of dig deeper into the mythology of the show.
Yes, we really thank you, Jen, for doing that, working with us. I think that's great. I'm also going to contribute some writings. I don't know if Troy's going to give it a shot at some point, too. Definitely check it out. You can also follow all of Jen's site details at her Twitter account, at Red's Blacklist. So that's at Red's Blacklist. If you ever forget what that site is, we have a handy link on the left side of the blacklistexposed.com to get you over there.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget about Clamor. That's CLAMMR.com. If you want to get the chance to introduce the fall finale feedback show like Bill and Rory did back for the spring finale on episode 27, get really creative and have some fun this season because you saw what they were able to put together. If you've been a listener for that long, you want to make sure you get the chance to do it for the fall because we will do that contest again this season.
Troy, this has been fun again. Are you excited to do another season of the Blacklist?
I am super excited because we're actually going to kick it off, not with this episode. I mean, it kind of kicks off season 3.
Yeah, people already listened to a new episode, man. I think we kicked it off.
But more importantly, before the October 1st premiere episode.
Ooh, is this the surprise we were talking about?
This is the surprise.
Ooh, I love surprises.
So we want to give a big thank you out to Suzanne from the Facebook group. You can check out her stuff over at Clearing the Red Tape. She has a Facebook group of her own. Check that out as well. She actually put us in touch with co-executive producer and writer Daniel Knopf. And we got the opportunity to interview Daniel coming up next week. So because Heroes bumped us for a week, we didn't want you to have no episode next Saturday when this comes out. So we will release to you a special interview with co-executive producer and writer Daniel Knopf, and we will ask him all the details about season 3. So get your questions into us. We have some drafted up already. We want to make sure it's a great discussion for all of you because I guess he talks a lot. So we might have a really good interview and episode length for you next week.
Am I allowed on this interview to ask him the pivotal question about the mom? Am I allowed to clear that up?
If you want to pose it, and then if he doesn't answer it, then you guys will all have to be quiet for the rest of the season.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a trick. But thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. Well, that will conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter this season at the Blacklist GSM. We live tweet during the East Coast feed, and we will use the show's hashtag, The Blacklist. We also have a Facebook group. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed and join us for the fun.
Intel from you is what we want, and we have a few ways you can submit intel right into the agency. You can now interact with us on Tumblr, Instagram, Clamor, or as always, visit goldenspiralmedia.com/theblacklist to call us or use your smartphone to send us a message.
You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes and Stitcher from the website. And if you are really on the go, like we all are, make sure you download our app for iOS and Android, whichever you prefer, powered by Spreaker. You will find all the intel and analysis about this episode by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question of the week. Other than Liz and Red's mysterious association, take that out of the equation because you know they're not going to answer it. What is the one question you most want answered this season?
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsider.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of
The Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production, copyright 2015. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.